affect your sleep later that night. But 22 to 23 minutes napping is great. In Mindvalley, Aubrey, we have napping pods for our employees. So who need to take an afternoon nap, we have napping pods for them to dive in. Now,
yeah. And that study is great, and there's even more studies that show that napping is more effective than coffee, more effective than sleeping longer at night. So they measured people who slept 8 hours versus 7 or 6.5. Well, the people who slept 6.5 and napped for that, optimal, and 30 minutes is rough because it usually takes you a little while to get relaxed, and it takes you a little while to actually come up. That 22 to 23 minutes, that's perfect, but it's difficult to know actually when you're at, so you just say 30 minutes as a general rule, but that's absolutely on the money. But it's such a crucial thing to add in. And again, there's a lot of great tips here, but this is, the best.
Absolutely, Tracy. There's no reason to have to fight that desire to nap. Now, the next question is from a person who is not actually currently live, so I'll read it out. But it's a great question. What about fasting? Won't lemon knock you out of your fasted state? Well, if we shouldn't take coffee before our first meal, what about if we are doing intermittent?
Both great questions. Fasting is a general term, and there's a variety of different ways that you can look at fasting. Is one way, and that could be just condensing your eating window to 8 hours a day, or it could be taking 1 or 2 days off a week. There's a lot of different fasting styles. The fasting actually, I think, is most important is metabolic fasting. So fasting from things that actually impact metabolism. And lemon is not going to impact your metabolism in any way that's actually has very little carbohydrate. It's mostly just and vitamins and nutrients that are just going to come through that squeeze. So it won't knock you out of your fast. Now, if you squeezed an orange into your water, that would, because the orange contains all of the fructose from the fruit that makes it sweet. And it's actually going to start to impact your metabolism. So to answer that first question, the does not knock you out of your fast and in any significant way. Now, there's certain spiritual practices and spiritual water fasts that are very pure. And this is more of a different concept than a metabolic fast. So if you're just going for a metabolic fast and the benefits of a metabolic fast, which is to give your metabolism and a chance to cycle through and detoxify, the lemon won't knock you out of that. Intermittent fasting, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. And ways to look at it is to just your window. You can obviously start your fast, your feeding window earlier. And so maybe wake up practices, and then maybe about 10 o'clock, you have what I have right here in this cup is a blended hot. It's like a blended Coke. So I put some butter, I put some cashew butter, I put a little bit of protein, and I put some hot water and some cacao, and I blend that up, and that takes me for the first course. Then I'll have a nice, what I describe in my book, a weird lunch. I'll try to eat a different foods, really giving myself access to as many nutrients as possible. And then if I'm in an intermittent protocol, I'm going to make sure that if I had my first blended hot cacao, 10 o'clock, well, I'm going to make sure that I have my dinner nice and early, 5:30. And the benefit of that as well is that you're digesting as you're sleeping. That's not going to be helpful for your optimal rest. If that's the way that I like to put my window, is from about 10 to 6, and make sure that I get all of my food in during that stretch. And then you'll start to get the benefits of that 16 hours where your body has a rest from having to do any digestive processes, and can daily housekeeping and cleaning, effective for weight management and also energy levels and focus and clarity and fasting.
Amazing, amazing. I'm so glad you shared that. I'm big on intermittent fasting. For those of you who are Mindvalley members, good news is this. Beyond Fasting, our program on will drop on Mindvalley membership in less than 3 weeks. It's created by none other than Ronan Diego, who is at Help Optimization. He's also the Brazilian guy with the biceps who's been hosting this event, in case you forgot. One of the things I learned from Ronan is I fast 4 times a week, and 4 days a week. 3 of those 4 days, I do a 16-hour fast, and 1 of those 4 days, I do a 20 to 22 hour. That is what you do as a male. If you're female, you actually have a different approach, so imitate that if you're a woman. But incidentally, Aubrey, what I learned from this, that to help me do my 20 to 22 hour fast, water with Himalayan salt, turns out, actually helps you go through that fasted state. So it actually, both systems are really complementary.
Absolutely. And the salt is huge because without that, your body's going to it's going to be so craving food because it wants the salt from the food. Because again, we're a saltwater animal. We're breathing out saltwater air, breathing in dry air. And so unless we start to replenish the salt, the body is going to be craving that in a major way and driving you towards breaking your fasts. And so, add a little bit of that salt and some lemon. It's a great solution for fasting.
Absolutely. And those of you who take Beyond Fasting will drop July, you will learn how Himalayan salt and water can actually help you go through that fasted state in a much easier way. So you gain all the benefits of some of the pain. So I'm really excited to get that out to you guys. So, Aubrey, as we come to the tail end of this conversation, what would be your closing message for everyone here?
The closing message, I think, is that we all hardly even know what we're capable of. There's so more that's possible for us, and it takes one step at a time to start to unlock it. But go through this process and start to weave in all of these optimization practices, and each one on top of another one. Pretty soon, you're going to be so far from the person that you once knew that you're really living a different life. But it just starts with one simple choice, one thing that you do, and then maybe to the next thing, and then to the next thing. But why not see what we're ultimately capable of? Why not find out what is possible for us? Why not decide how much energy we have, or how much focus we can bring, or how much joy we can have, or how much play we can have? When we have that energy, have that vitality, it's so much easier to have a laugh and just be spontaneous and enjoy our life. But when we're wrestling with ourselves and wrestling with our energy, and we're eating food that is for us, and then we have to recover from the food, and then we're reaching to more caffeine and reaching to all of these, it's like we're constantly in a wrestling match with ourselves. But instead of wrestling, what if we were just flying like we're on a hang glider and just soaring through our day? And that's what's possible. It's possible for all of us. And it just takes the dedication and the information to go one step at a time and reach, ultimate human potential.
Amazing, Aubrey. Thank you so much. It was so great having you on this program, on the summit. And remember, guys, check out Own Your Day, Own Your Life, an amazing book by Aubrey Marcus. Aubrey, thank you. And thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you, brother. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Vishen. Thank you very much, Aubrey. This was a pleasure. I think that every time that a meeting a few weeks ago that we were talking about the speakers coming to Mindvalley Summit, Aubrey Marcus was mentioned. Everyone went crazy. Oh my goodness, it's such a wise person, such a great vibration that he brings. So we are very glad to have had this opportunity to bring his ideas to our audience in the Mindvalley Summit. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a short break, but before that, there are a couple of things that I want to tell you. The first one is there will be a poll that will pop on your screen right now, so you can assess, you can give a score to this session, how much you loved it, probably on your screen right now in this Zoom application. Let us know how much you loved this session. And we are back in, if we have the announcement slides, let's bring them on, please. We are going to be back in around 10 minutes. By the next session, we are going to break them down into 4 different options. And you will be able to find your option here under this link. Go to mindvalley.com/agenda to see which one of the sessions you are choosing and what is the link that takes you there. But let me give you a hint. If you haven't chosen your session yet, we're going to have a session happening in the main stage. You need to find what the link is with Eric at Meets about business freedom. If you don't know what to choose, let me hint you. Every time that this guy comes on, there is a ripple effect in people's minds. There is an explosion. There's a lot of great experience. There's a lot of deep insights. We've seen this many times. He's one of our Mindvalley teachers. He's going to be on in the next block of sessions. So if you don't know exactly what session to choose, look for that one. Look for the link, and you thank me later. I'll see you guys in 9 minutes from now. See you there. Cheers.
Another level, we ain't never settle now. Level up, watch me level up, watch me, yeah.
Getting your dream body is hard work. Long hours in the gym, day in and day out. Just gotta keep putting in the work. Not true. All you need is 2 workouts per week, 15 minutes each. 15 minutes! This is not a hack. This is pure science. The amount of calories does not define a good workout. Forget about calories. But when you feel that you have no strength, your muscles are on fire and you can't possibly push any further, now that's what I call a good workout.
Put the work in. Put the work in. Put the work in.
The human body does not need an hour-long workout. Our species survived because of our ability to adapt from short and intense events, like fighting off a predator. This is called the adaptive response. It's our body's growth response to a physical trigger. And that's exactly what 10X by Mindvalley is built on. You massively increase your strength, your endurance, and flexibility in minimal time. 10X was built to answer this. In the past 5 years, Mindvalley has been running experiments around the world with more than 10,000 participants across a range of ethnicities and age and lifestyles on building a fitness system that can give you 10x the results in 10% of the time. Perfecting the system over the years, we are finally bringing this to the world, to you. In this 12-week quest, you'll learn the 15-minute fitness fundamentals to build the body you want. You might be a Wall Street executive, a working mom, an entrepreneur, or a creative. No matter who you are, this will be adapted to your needs and to your lifestyle. If you want to radically transform your body in 10% of the time, then sign up for 10X by Mindvalley. This is the start of a fitness journey that will go on for the rest of your life.
and gentlemen, all over the world, welcome back to Mindvalley Summit. My name is Ronan. I am one of your hosts. If you are joining us for the first time right now, my welcome. If you are here with us from the beginning, from yesterday, it's so great to see you again. I am very especially grateful to be introducing our next speaker, Eric, for a bunch of reasons, but especially for the impact that he has had on my own life and my own family, from the teachings, from everything that I learned from him. If you are a Mindvalley member or a Mindvalley student, chances are you resonate. Chances are he has improved in one way or the other. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Eric is a man who has mapped many areas of life, business and human health and public speaking, and he has paired this with very uncanny, unique abilities of teaching to help other people master these areas in their lives. And he does this with incredible knowledge and skill in human behavior. And so he has people's lives and improved Mindvalley students and people all over the world in all these areas. And today, Eric is going to talk to you about business, to the business freedom area of all his teachings. Not only is he a very accomplished teacher, he's also a very entrepreneur. He has started many companies in different areas. You know, he has open companies in wireless networking, and then Hollywood film production, and then he has opened a company on medical simulation and made very successful companies. But yet, when you go to social media, for example, you see a lot of pictures of Eric enjoying time with family, with his daughter, or on the beach, or traveling to Tanzania, or ice skating, and I heard even surfing, very unique skills. And that all this lifestyle and all his freedom that he has built for himself comes from his approach to building businesses. And this is exactly what he's going to share with you today. So it's my honor and pleasure to welcome Eric, who happens to be here physically onto the stage. Welcome, Eric Admits.
Thank you very, very much.
It's
so
a
good to see
pleasure,
you.
my friend.
Cheers, brother. All right. This is going to be so much fun. I first of all want to thank Mindvalley for creating the space for this, and to Vishen particularly for making the lateral jump of letting me come and talk about business. Because for most of you who know me through Mindvalley, you'll know me as a food crank, somebody who's really fascinated by food, nutrition, food psychology, and doing everything I can to food all around the world. And so when I went to Vishen and said, listen, I'd like to come and talk about entrepreneurship, the initial reaction he had, which is very reasonable, is, well, everybody thinks of you as the health guy. Well, the fact is that if I hadn't handled my life, if I hadn't figured out business, I wouldn't have been able to have the impact that I have, where we've now had hundreds of thousands of people around the world impacted by WildFit. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't first handle some stuff in the world of entrepreneurship and business. I'm thrilled to be here to share this with you. I also know something about you, and I mean you, is now I know that someone is watching and their life is going to get changed in the next 45 minutes. And I know that because I was that person sitting in the audience. I remember distinctly sitting in an audience at the age of about 20 years old and seeing somebody speak about entrepreneurship, and it lit me on fire. It lit me on fire because all of a sudden I felt like I could have some control over my destiny. Look, when I was a kid, I was born originally in South Africa, and my parents had decided to leave, in opposition to the government at the time and all that sort of stuff. And when they did that, they made a tough decision. And here was the tough decision. My grandparents were very wealthy, but they did not agree with us leaving for Canada. And so they basically cut us off. And so we went to Canada, and we were not wealthy. And it was kind of an interesting thing to have come from a family that had a great deal of wealth and to feel like, oh, look, there's intergenerational wealth here. And then to have it be gone and suddenly realize that, it's all up to you. It's all up to me. And as I sat in this walk and learned about entrepreneurship, something shifted for me, because for the 12 years of school that I went through before that, nobody ever really talked about entrepreneurship. You know what they talked about? Getting a job. talk about getting a job security, a salary, a paycheck. Here's what I want to share with you. In my opinion, entrepreneurship is the ultimate expression of personal freedom when it's practiced correctly. Because for a lot of entrepreneurship becomes a form of advanced self-torture and hard work and sacrifice and spend time with your family and often not even paying yourself enough to do it. But that's not the fault of entrepreneurship. That has a lot more with the way we're educated and the way we are taught about entrepreneurship. Real entrepreneurship practically is the ultimate expression of personal freedom. In fact, it's like the new royal family, isn't it? Like, if you wanted to be a member of the royal family, you had to be, well, frankly, born into it. And maybe you could, Disney way, kind of marry your way into one, but the truth is you had to be born into it. Today, the royals of the world, people that have had the biggest impact and created the highest amount of value for people all over the world, and they now are the royalty of our planet today. And yes, you know some of them. You know who Elon Musk is, and you know who Warren Buffett is, and you know who Bill Gates is. You may or may not like them, but those are only the ones at the very top. Here's something else that's really fascinating. I talk to people morning rituals or getting into state before they go into a meeting or before they sit down to do some work, that maybe they should do some jumping jacks to get their energy up, or when they have a big victory that they should celebrate it. But here's the thing. They're like, yeah, but I would do that, but this is just work. I mean, look, if I was a professional sports person or if I was an actor, I would really do that. And I'd pay more attention to my diet, and I would do jumping jacks, and I'd get my blood going. Well, why would you do it if you were in sports, or why would you do it if you were an actor? Well, because the opportunity is so... No, it bloody isn't. It isn't so big at all. Go and Google it yourself. The richest actor in the world is worth $800 million, which is a lot of money. It is. But it's a fraction of the richest entrepreneurs in the world. And if you look at the richest actors in the world, by the time you get to about level 100, like number one, 800 million, then 100 million, then 50 million. By the time you get down to the 100th or 150th actor, they're living in a trailer park somewhere in Memphis. It's not an opportunity. Same in sports, yes. The odd sports person is making 50 or 100 million dollars. You got the Federers and the Ronaldos. But the truth is that the vast majority of them don't ever hit that level of success. And they're age limited. Look at old man Federer. I mean, how old is he now? He's coming up to, he's ancient. No, he's not. He's young. But in his sport he is. There's a better sport you can play. The sport's called entrepreneurship. And if you look at the rich person, the person who's created the greatest financial wealth from playing that game is worth over $100 billion, and so is the number 2 and number 3, and you can continue to go on. The top 10 are all multi-billionaires. The top 100 are billionaires. Then you could talk 3-digit millionaires for a few days. Then you could talk about the 2-digit millionaires for a few months. And then there are countless millionaires. Entrepreneurship is the greatest opportunity for personal freedom ever. And so I want to share some things that might answer for you how to apply it in your life and how to create some real, serious freedom for yourself. There are 3 gifts that I gave myself as a young man. 1, I gave myself the gift of health by understanding my relationship with food. 2, I gave myself the gift of communication, overcoming my fear and social anxiety and becoming comfortable with speaking. Number 3, I gave myself financial security by understanding entrepreneurship. And I want to say something incredibly unpopular. Money buys happiness. Okay, I know it doesn't. I know that there are plenty of people that have a lot of money and it doesn't make them happy, and there's no question about it. I just want to suggest that financial liberty creates a level of personal freedom that makes happiness easier, makes it easier to have passion. And I'm going to give you a very visceral example right out of my life. My most successful business, spiritually, passion, money, my most successful business is a little business that I started as a little business that I started in my living room one day. I'd been involved in other companies. I started my first company when I was 20 years old. We sold wireless networking systems and data capture solutions and barcode scanners and so on. After that, I bought a film studio in Northern California where we worked on special effects, and we did movies like Avatar and Pirates of the Caribbean and super cool stuff. And I created another company that did medical simulation, and we won awards from the US Army and the US Congress. I've had some really fast businesses. But there came a point where I started a business and it had nothing to do with the money. Nothing. I did it because I wanted to help. I did it because I had been suffering as a young man. I'd been sick and I'd been in pain and I'd been dealing with all kinds of medications and nothing. I'd seen every specialist that I could find and nothing helped. And then one day I managed to solve that problem for myself. And so I had energy and I wasn't sick anymore. And I would suggest to you that one of the reasons that I get to live the life that I get to live today is that I turned that health corner. And I suddenly wanted to take that to people. And so I was living in my little house and I opened up a Google account and I started doing these coaching sessions for people free. And it became a company called WildFit. WildFit has now helped hundreds of thousands of people in over 100 countries around the world. We have over 400 certified coaches everywhere. It has become my most successful business measure. The impact that it's had on people around the world is something that I still can't come to terms with. Every single day, I get messages from people on Instagram and Facebook telling me how they've reversed their diabetes, they're no longer in pain, their inflammation is no longer on prescription medication, the lifelong chronic medications they were on are no longer necessary. I get these messages every day. And I want you to know that one of the reasons I get these messages is that the day that I sat down to start that company, I didn't need to make money. I want you to hear me about that. You see, as a young man, when I started a business, what was I after? Sports cars, right? Like I wanted money. I wanted to have fancy stuff. But then as I got older and as I solved some of these mysteries in business, I came to a place where what I really wanted to do was give back. And so the reason I'm here with you today, the reason that we've launched the Business Freedom Blueprint on Mindvalley, and the reason that I teach entrepreneurship through businessfreedom.com is that I believe the world needs a little help right now. Are you with me? I mean, do you think we need some social change? Is it possible? Do we possibly need some food production change? Do we need some healthcare change? Do we need some political change? And we need some change. And you know the crazy thing is, the best people in the world to facilitate that change are entrepreneurs. They are. They're creative and driven and optimistic. But the problem is, so many of them start a business and then proceed to spend 6-7 years of their life solving problems that other people have solved before. And so I want to come along and help solve those problems for you so that you can have the kind of business success you really want to have, because my idea is, and you can tell me, but is it true that if you didn't have to make decisions based on bringing money in the door, that if you didn't have to make decisions based on survival, if you didn't have to make decisions like that, that you would turn a lot more of your attention onto the social and welfare challenges that exist all around you, wherever you are in the world? Spoken on business in probably 25 or 30 countries around the world, and I've seen all kinds of different approaches to this. One of my very first business talks I did was in London, England, and I was blown away at one talk in 90 minutes. To this day, many of those people in that audience from over 15 years ago are still writing to me because that one talk inspired them so much to change their life and business. I've also spoken to South Africa. Matter of fact, I went once on a multiple city tour all through India, and you know what I found? The entrepreneurial spirit in India is so strong. It's so incredibly strong. Every country has a different approach to the way entrepreneurship needs to be handled, but here's the one thing that's consistent, is our school system is not supporting us. So I want to share with you how you might have some ideas about the way business works that you inherited from school unconsciously, and I want to help you to maybe release them today. And then I want to share some really powerful principles with you about entrepreneurship that can, if you haven't started yet, help you lay a solid foundation, or if you have started, make some course that might create more freedom for you. Because here's something. As your business grows, should you end up with more freedom or less freedom? More. But that's not usually what happens for most people. As the company grows, they become busier. As the company gets bigger, they end up having to put more time in and sacrifice more time with their family. I don't want it to be that way for you. I want it to be like this. Yes, you will need to work smart for a short period of time, but that's what entrepreneurship is. It's the opportunity to work a little harder and a little smarter than the average person for a short period of time so that you can create a life that other people only dream about when they buy their lottery ticket on Saturdays. It really is that kind of an opportunity. And here's what happened to us in school. Most of us go to school for something like 12 years. In school, if you get help on something and you weren't specifically told to get help, what's it called? Cheating. Isn't it? If you get help on an assignment and you weren't supposed to get that help, it's called cheating. In fact, even when you put children on teams in many school environments, on teams, the children are vying for who did the most because it's competitive. You know, you go to school, the bell rings, class starts. The bell rings, you move to the next class. The bell rings, you eat your meal. The bell rings, you go to the next class. They were training us for jobs. They were training us for industrial age jobs. And they were not training us for innovation and thinking. What we want to do now is figure out, how do we make that change? How do we break out of that? Here's one great thing that helps so very much. Absolutely key to entrepreneurship is getting help. I'll tell you, I was interviewed for this book about 3-4 years ago, and it was a book about dyslexia. Now, if you're not familiar with dyslexia is a condition that affects thought processes, and very badly defined. It basically means that some people have a hard time keeping left and right, or the order in which numbers or letters should appear in the right order. And I have this condition, mildly, enough that spelling is difficult for me, and don't ask me to remember your phone number. Like, it's difficult. And I have to say, I'm not so impressed that they called it dyslexia, because X's and Y's are even more challenging if you're dyslexic. I swear, a bunch of people were sitting around in a room going, we found this condition where they can't get the letters and numbers right. We should make up a word for it and make it super complicated. I think they should have called it Bob. If they just called it Bob, then you just say Bob, and if you got it backwards, it would still be Bob. So, in any event, I'm having this interview in this book, and the book is all about dyslexic entrepreneurs